myself supreme. I'm alive. Myself supreme. I honor you. Self-supreme, primal lights, I honor you.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Give honor and reverence. Welcome, welcome, and thank you. Thank the I for joining this wake up call with our set. Yes, this wake up call. We're focusing on the move from duality to non duality. That is the stage that the I and I exist presently. All the I and I's in duality must return to non duality. And so this is the second part of the series, the move from duality to non duality. So, to make it clear again what duality is the sleeping, dreaming self that is in unawareness. The self is in a drunken state. The self has no awareness of itself. And because the self sleeps, the mind that is sleeping and dreaming up the existence and the creation creates the ego false self to explore all of this duality in. So the I must move from this state of sleeping and dreaming to being awake, to a wakefulness. No more sleeping, no more dreaming. The self must do this. So it is the self that sleeps and also the self, the mind, because they have been separated. The consciousness that rules and governs this world has been separated from itself. So it is wayward. And so all of the self that sleeps, that's wearing body, they must wake up. It is the destiny of Aten Ra to restore balance back onto her duality self, Ra, and her duality consciousness. So it is your destiny wearing a body to pay attention to these questions. Who am I? This is the single most important question that you will ever have to ask. Self inquiry. You must self inquire. So, I am going to tell you today why you should self inquire. I am also going to tell you today why you should put this mind, this ego, into stillness so that the I can know truth. I can practice vigilance against this mind and know that this mind is the root of all evil. The mind is the root of all the problems in this duality. I am going to tell you why you should put this mind into stillness. Why the I should self inquire? Why should the I ask, who am I? So it is important that you do this. I want to reiterate to the I, the forces of this duality. There are two forces of energy that governs this duality. One force is the chaos, while the other force is the balance. The force that is the chaos is the self that sleeps and has lost all self awareness. Kind of like when someone is drunk, their eyes are open and they go about ranting and being very destructive. Being drunk allows them to lose their self awareness and they can't remember the horrible things they have done while in a drunken state. On the other hand, you, the sober and eyewitness, and sometimes the victim of that chaos, can testify of that state of unconsciousness and what happens when one loses self awareness. This is what has happened to the I self. The I self has lost all self awareness. The second force of energy that governs the duality is the one true, the self that balances everything, that itself, the chaos creates. The self that sleeps and dreams is a self that creates the imbalance because of its consciousness, its mind is delusional. And now there's a self that is awake that balances the sleeping self that has to call it to awake. Just like for you, the same, it is the same process. Your real self, which is the soul, is the one that is calling you, its baby self, to awake. You are the duality, and your real self, the soul, is the non duality. Now you must return back to the non duality of being in existence with just yourself, the soul. Right? Inquiry. I want to talk about inquiry. I talk about asking questions. The last video, I talk about curiosity, one having the desire of wanting to know something. Many ones do not know who they are and they don't want to ask any question. They are following blindly and they have never asked a question, who am I? You don't know, but someone is telling you this and they're so confused. Someone telling them this, someone telling them that. Over here, someone else is telling them something else. And they're just followers of all of these ideologies and they just find one that they relate to, their conscience, and their ego agrees with it, and they say, okay, I will grow with this one. So I want to encourage the I for self-inquiry. So science and scientists ask questions from the duality Existence, they call the universe. All questions is directed outwards. So there are four inquiries that I have observed that's taking place in the world. And the first one is science and scientists, right? They're asking questions. And this is one thing I like about science. They're asking questions. Only one question they don't ask. They want to know what's happening in the universe, what happened in the cosmos, what's the star, what happened with the sun. They want to go to Mars. They want to colonize this. But never yet did they ask, who am I? And stick with that question to dissect themselves. They look in the mirror, they see this image, and they say, oh, this is I. You now have classified yourself as your creation. You created something, and now you don't remember who you are because you're sleeping, and you call yourself the creation that you have created. And so this is what's wrong with science. It is not asking an all around question. It's only asking an outward question because already it think that it know itself. It has never seen itself. None of those scientists have never seen themselves. They look in the mirror at this body and they identify as this body. So they don't have to need to ask no question, who am I? Who am I that is animating this body? Because if you're a scientist, you already come to the conclusion that there's a force that's operating, because you see the body when there isn't the, and it's lifeless, when it does not, when it's soulless or selfless, it cannot exist, right? So all of the scientists questions, even though I prefer scientists over all the other ones who are asking questions, apart from the real question, which is the self inquiry, because science, they're asking questions, right? And they're willing to have someone test their questions. If they come up with something, they're willing to have many ones ask the same question and test it to prove, make proof, right? Except for the other two, religion and spirituality, right? Religion and the religious, they ask questions of God and seek a savior to save them from their sins, because they lack the ability and responsibility, because they lack the ability for self responsibility, right? All of their questions and responsibility is directed outward. They give that to someone else. They are doing all of these things in this world, but yet still they're giving the responsibilities and the responsibility of their self into someone else's hand, into a delusional character. So this is just like complete ignorance. Now the next inquiry that's happening is the spirituality and the spirituals. They seek their answers from the dualities called the ancestors. So they think that they are better than the religious, because they while they're in a having more awareness of things that happen, they are not in no better position, because the spirituals, they seek their answers from the duality they call the ancestors, and the ancestors have always been influencing ones wrongly, because the ancestors come back into body and it's them, but they are seeking themselves again and don't know that they are the ones that are here now taking up the forms in the body. The ancestors that passed is not the ones that are appearing to you. These are the same gods deceiving you. So that which came as your ancestor and they pass, now they return, and you, that is you in the body. So what they are worshiping is the same religious god them, the same ones them, because they're just calling themselves different names. And so the spiritualists, they're seeking all their answers from the ancestors, and all of their questions are also directed outward, because they are not asking who am I. They are saying know thyself, and then they're showing pictures of all of these avatars that came before, which is themselves. All of those avatar is it has returned back into another body and is themselves in the body, but they still don't know that. So this is the next form of the ignorance. They're the wrong inquiry. No, stillness and self-inquiry is the way to go. This is the right inquiry, because now the seekers ask question of the I self. The question is now directed to the self, to the I. They take self-responsibility and seek to still the mind and dissolve the ego false self. This is what they do. You know what I'm saying? So that they can be the one that's in command. Taking command. The I must take command of the I's journey. This is how the I get to move from duality to non-duality. This is how the I get to wake up from sleeping. Self-inquiry. Why? Why should the I self-inquire? Self-inquiry is the path to unveil the I real self. Self-inquiry allows the mind to seek the source of its existence. Remember that the mind is the ego, and the mind creates the ego false self because the self sleeps. Self-inquiry is the tool that dissects the ego story of identity. Self-inquiry allows the teacher, the inner guru, to arise to answer the I self question. By examining the nature of the ego, this allows the baby self, called the spirit, the one that is animating the body, to awake from sleeping by asking the question, who am I? You now exist in the body as the ego false self. You have to ask this question, because you have to get the mind engaged. You have to get the ego engaged, because you are the ego false self. You have to be asking this question. By repeatedly asking this question, identification with the ego false self begins to dissolve, and I awake from the dream to come into true self-realization. Self-inquiry allows the inner teacher to put void between the ego and the self. And this is the process of the dissolution of the ego false self. No longer that I will exist as the ego false self, that I will be returned to the I real self. It is the destiny of the teacher within to pull this ego off of the I self, called a spirit. This is why the I must make a call back to the I real self, called the soul. Remember that it is not something that you have, it is yourself. It is you in the real self, and now you exist in the false self, the duality, and now you must return back to being your real self, called the soul. It is not something to give away, put into slavery willy-nilly, because you don't know that it is yourself. It is the trickery of all of the duality characters that you worship. It is time for you to come out of this ignorance and self-inquire and admit that you do not know. Stop following others. You do not know. So you're going to stop calling unto other things and call to yourself, the soul. That is your real self. This is the only call you must make, to the I self called the soul, so you can return to being yourself. It is you. Wake up. This allows the spirit self to turn on its light, to see things as they are. When the teacher within rise from the self, the soul, this is what happens. You have to have that soul self in the body with you. Do not give it away. It is the I real self, and it is the only way that I can come into self truth is if the soul is back in the body with you and you unified with it as one self. This is only when the teacher rises from within to pull the ego off of you so you can wake up. But your job is to inquire and get the soul back into this body and use the affirmations to still the mind. Self inquiry. Who am I? What is the source of my existence, allowing me this world experience? How did I come into being? You must question into the ego, because when thoughts are rising, you must say, these are not my thoughts. You must be thought watching so you can know what is your thoughts and what is not your thoughts. Because this ego is always bringing thoughts. So you must question every thought. From where does these thoughts arise? Who speaks? You must inquire, ask question. Not every thought that come to you, not every thought that come to you, meaning that you must think it. You must inquire, right? Self-inquiry. No, the next thing that I must do to move from duality to non-duality, that I must come into self-realization. Why self-realization? Why the I must come into self-realization? One, the I is existing and the I do not know the I self. The I is categorizing that this body and this mind, this ego as the I self. The I do not know, but I have refused to ask questions. So, because you don't know, you must ask and you must realize. So that's why I am going to tell you why. Self-realization is the only way you are going to know that this costume and this mask that you are wearing is not who you are. Self-realization is the only way to know that this duality mind is not your true self. This duality mind is not in its true nature. That the ego rules the world and the self is hiding. Now is the time to unveil the I self through self-realization. Self-realization allows the I to peel away fabricated layers of one's own personality and false self-identity to get to the I, real and true self. False self-identity is the bane of our existence. We are identifying as all kind of things which we are not. Self-realization shatters prejudice, greed, and hate. Self realization allows self unification and oneness. Self realization shatters the confusion of the mind. Hence, the I can be stabilized and anchored into the I self supreme primal light. The I self realize, so the I must start chanting this. I self realize. I self realize, because this will help the I to come into self realization. I self realize that I am not this body, that I am not this mind, the ego. I am not the ego false self. I am not the dream character. I realize that I am the self supreme primal light, taking form in this body as a baby primal light. I self realize, I realize that I am a character inside of my own dream. I realize that I have fragmented and made babies of myself to play all the characters in my life movie. I self realize. I self realize. I realize I self supreme primal light exists alone. That I am deathless, formless, timeless, limitless, boundless. I self realize all is oneself, all is myself. I am one with all. I am that I am. I am that has no name. I am that can't be explained. I self realize I am all. I am the self supreme. Self realization allows the I to take command and precedence over the ego. I am in command. I am in command. Mind, be still, be still, be still, and know that I am in command. Self realization, you have no time to blame anyone, but you take responsibility and dissolve this ego false self. And this is what you must do now. You must come into this realization that you are the self supreme, you are the creator, and you are not the created. You have created these things, and now identify yourself as the things you have created. Come into self realization and see yourself as the self supreme creator, and dissolve this ego false self. You take command, you take responsibility, and you do what you're supposed to do. This is what you do. You don't sit and wait for someone to come and save you, because there's only one way to save yourself. You have created an ego false self, and you must dissolve it. Dissolve this ego false self and be yourself. Why stillness? Stillness is the remedy for the mind. Why does the I need a remedy for the I mind? Because the mind is sick and delusional. It is always making up stories to explain the unknown. The mind believes all the things in its imagination is real. The mind is very negative and deceitful. The mind is the ego. Therefore, stillness calms and purifies the mind. Stillness allows the mind to get light, to get some rest, because the mind keep going, 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 and never stops. You must engage the mind in stillness so that it can get some purity, Stillness stabilizes the mind in its real true self. Stillness is the silent teacher and healer. The quiet and solitude allow truth to arise from deep within, from the self, restoring the incessant chattery of the mind, irrational thoughts, and engaging in actions that fulfill the never ending desires and bad habits of the ego. Stillness allows the inner self wisdom to speak. Stillness allows the I to listen to the I real true self intelligence. Stillness and self inquiry allows the I to return to truth. Stillness allows for the self and the mind to maintain equanimity. Stillness is a must if the I and I want to know truth, to maintain balance and harmony with the I mind. So chant with me, I am stillness. I am stillness without thoughts. This is very important. Mind, be still, be still. Mind, be still, and know that I am in command. I am in command. It is very important that the I knows that I must take command and make this affirmation sink into this consciousness, into this mind, you know, so that the mind can know this, the ego. The I and I must remember that the mind is thought, memory, imagination, and very habitual. The mind is delusional. So why must I practice mind stillness? The mind is a tainted baby consciousness. The mind is tainted with impurities, memory play, sick imagination, prone to mental sickness, and destructive ideologies that instigate cruel actions. The mind is always being deceptive and does not know the truth about the self. Every evil begins in the mind before it is acted out in the world. Stillness purifies the mind. Stillness purifies my mind. Stillness arise. In stillness arise the supreme teacher within to pull this ego off of the baby self called the spirit. So this is the reason why that I must be engaged in stillness. That I must also be engaged in thought inquiry to move the I self from this duality to non-duality. You must, every time a thought arises, instead of thinking it, you must ask, from where does this thought arise? Many thoughts, you return it back from where it came because it's just rising up from the ego. You don't want to think it and bring it into your creation. Mind, be still is an affirmation that you want to be saying to this mind constantly. Be still, and know that I am in command. I dissolve all thoughts as soon as they arise to disengage my imagination. Because if you notice when the thought rises, your imagination start going wild. You start imagining this with the thoughts. So if you are not engaging the imagination, this is how you are dissolving the thoughts. And so this is very important that you are doing this. Mind, be still, be still, be still, and know that I am in command. I dissolve all thoughts as soon as they arise to disengage my imagination. Because remember that this mind is thoughts, imagination, stirring up feelings, and all these things. And you want to disengage yourself. Mind, be still, be still, be still. Mind, be still, and know that I am in command. I am in command. I am in command. I am in command of the commandment, command. I am in command of the commandment, command. What are you doing? You're being in command. You're not allowing this mind to continually to be in command. You're not giving God to be in command. You are taking command of yourself. You're not giving this responsibility to someone else. No, it's time that you be in command and take responsibility that you are a creator creating. Take responsibility of what you are creating, and you cannot blame it on others and then want someone to forgive you of your sins. No, take responsibility. There's no such thing. The ego, the mind, is delusional. So it creates these false ideas and ideologies that everyone is following. Take command. I am not this tainted, delusional mind. I am not this mind. I am not this ego. I am not this mind. I am not this ego. I am not this body. This body is a dream creation to explore this dream world. I am not this body. This body is a dream creation to explore this dream world. I am not this body. I am not this duality mind. I am not this body. I am not this duality mind. I am not this body. I am not this duality mind. I am not this body. I am not this duality mind. I am not this body. I am not this duality mind. Mind, be still. Be still and know that I am in command. So that I must take command and I must affirm this. So you have to practice these stillness techniques, how to quiet the mind. So we are going to move into the vibrations that helps to quiet the mind. And so we want to be affirming within ourselves that we are stillness. So I am stillness. I am stillness without thoughts. Hold on there. This duality is uh, oh, into my foot. I have to switch my foot around here because this this consciousness don't want me to say this. I am stillness. I am stillness without thoughts. I am awake, alert, attentive, and aware in stillness without thoughts. I am primal light. I am the true light. I am void, unmanifest. I am that has no name. I am that can't be explained. So remember that stillness calms, purifies, and heals the mind. Stillness heals mind sickness. Stillness is the remedy for the mind. Remember that from stillness arise the supreme teacher within, the primal guru, the self, the teacher within, the self soul, to pull the ego off of the baby self and to put the void between the mind, the ego, and the self. So it is the supreme teacher within, the self soul, destiny to do this. because the I cannot do this, the I self. What the I can do, the I self, is ask, question, is inquire, self inquiry, is to practice these affirmation and these vibration, to put the mind in stillness so that the I self, the real self called the soul, will come in alignment with the I, and the teacher within will rise to pull this ego off of the I self. But you have the button in your hand. You have to make this step to allow this to happen consciously with awareness for you. It is going to happen for everyone, whether you do this or not, but you are not going to be in awareness of it. So if you want to be in awareness of yourself with conscious self awareness, then do this yourself. Put this mind in stillness and practice self inquiry. Okay? This is my recommendation for all the ones who are the seekers of self truth. So let's get ready for some stillness meditation. Again, why stillness meditation? I must learn to still the mind. I must learn to still my mind. The baby self must awake to take precedence over its mind. This is why. This is very important. This is all a meditation. I recommend anyone to do stillness, where you're stilling the mind. No meditation where you're going in to look for things. Don't go look for nothing into this dream existence. Still this mind and allow yourself to align and be unified as oneself. The mind has been deceiving you. So we're gonna go through the vibrations, also and silence at the end. Um, so the first one we're doing is pulling the mind out of the head. So what you want to do is put your thumbs together like so, and make an X with your hands, your right hand over the left, and your thumbs connect. And you're gonna put your hand in the center of your chest. Then you're going to visualize the mind actually coming out of the head and going into the void, into the space in the center of your chest. You have a void there. Um, I remember that the void is the I self. So the void self is the stillness self that brings the mind to stillness. You cannot do it yourself, but the void can do it because it is stillness. So this is why you do this pulling the mind out of the head, meditation for stillness. You pull it out of the head, visualize this happening. Visualize there's an electromagnet in the center of your chest, and you have a magnet up here, and it's going to snap into the electromagnet because the mind is magnetic. It is magnet. And so it's going to, the electromagnet is going to hold it, and you want to use your awareness to hold the magnet, the mind, down into the center, into the void, and allow the void to purify it. Then you're going to put your tongue to the roof of your mouth, and then we are going to make the sound mm. You're going to spiral the around your body. And now we are going to put our hands to our ears, and we are going to visualize the same thing where we just this with our hands coming down in the void. We're still holding that visual. We're just moving our hands now to our ears, holding the visual, the mind coming out of the head, holding into the center of the chest, into the void. And now close our ears, and we're gonna make this vibration um, amplify within the body. And we're going to do this 8 times. So count on your own 8 times. And so now we will move to the next vibration. This, the ah vibration. We will do this. We will do this vibration. Hmm. And so we are going to put put our hands, our thumbs connect. Put our right hand over our left and make that X. Then we're going to put it in the center of our chest. And we are going to do this. vibration 8 times. We will spiral the vibration around the body to break up the magnetic energy because we want to break up the cocoon or coffin of magnetic energy that the mind has cased the self in, because we want this self to wake up. So let's go. Yes, and now we will move to the second. Um, Now we'll move to the next vibration, which is again, we will continue the same process in the hand formation and visualization of the mind, pulling the mind out of the head, holding it in the center of the chest into the void so that the void can continue to purify the mind, the ego. Now, we will also do this vibration 8 times. You know what I will do? I will allow the vibrations. I'm going to play the vibration. Let's go back to this one. And this way, I don't have to. So let me do this. Yes, I must continue to practice this vibrations and remember to rest at the end in stillness and silence. So at the end, you should sit, no noise, no words, no sounds. In stillness, there's no thoughts, no creation, no dream, no thinking, no imagery, nothing. Nothing exists in stillness. Nothing exists. In silence, things can still exist, but just no talking, no words, no noise, no sound. This is why we want to get to stillness. The mind is creating things. We want to stop this mind from creating in its imagination. So, this is why stillness. I want to thank you for your presence. Much honor. That is it for now. I'll see you at the next wake up call with Aset. And I will continue to play the vibrations. And you can follow it to the end to stillness. So, thank you for your presence.
Ah.